Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into something that I know hits home for so many of you. Phrasal verbs.
Ah, yes. The classic challenge.
Totally. You know those tricky little combinations of verb plus a preposition or adverb, and suddenly the meaning just flips.
Mm-hmm. Completely changes.
Have you ever been there like mid-conversation and you just feel completely blank, lost, wondering, wait, is it bring up a new topic or bring on a new problem?
Oh, absolutely. That little moment of hesitation.
Yeah, that internal second guessing, it breaks your flow, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a universal frustration, I think.
Definitely.
And so for this deep dive, our mission is, well, pretty straightforward, actually. We want to help you move beyond just recognizing phrasal verbs.
Right. Seeing them isn't enough.
Exactly. The goal here is for you to truly learn them, remember them, and this is the crucial part, use them confidently in your everyday English conversations.
Yes. And here's where we really get to the core of it. If phrasal verbs still feel, I don't know, out of reach, even after all the effort you've maybe put in,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be really direct here. The problem, it isn't you. And it's definitely not your memory.
No.
The problem lies in the method you've probably been taught.
That's it. It's fascinating, actually, how let's call them conventional approaches, often create this very struggle without meaning to.
Also,
Well, most people are taught to memorize, right? Just brute force memorization. But that's just not how our brains are really wired for language. But we're going to reveal a much more intuitive way, frankly, a more efficient way. We sort of distilled insights from memory science into this personalized, hyper-efficient 5-minute routine.
5 minutes.
Just 5 minutes a day. And it helps these phrasal verbs finally stick so you can genuinely stop that second guessing and just start speaking with more ease.
Okay, I'm definitely excited to hear about that routine. But before we jump into the solution, let's maybe unpack why phrasal verbs often don't stick so easily.
Good idea.
Because this isn't about, blaming anyone. It's just about understanding the specific hurdles so we can, well, leap over them.
Precisely. And once we understand these common traps, the routine we're about to share will make so much more sense. It'll feel like maybe that missing piece of the puzzle you've been looking for.
Okay.
So what's the first big reason?
Reason number 1, the trap of lists. We've all done it, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
Guilty. Sitting down with a list, maybe 20 or 30 phrasal verbs, just trying to force them into our memory.
Okay.
And there's no real connection to our actual lives.
Not at all.
You study them, you think, okay, I've got this, and then like the very next day,
Yeah.
poof.
Gone. Vanish.
Yeah. It's like our brains just have nothing to hold on to.
It really does become just another abstract word on a page. Without that real-world context or a genuine connection to your life right now, your brain just struggles to flag it as important.
Right.
But if you take a phrasal verb, let's say to follow up, and you immediately tie it to a real task.
Like something you actually have to do.
Exactly. Like needing to follow up on that quarterly report with Sarah. Or you need to bring up a concern you have in tomorrow's meeting. Suddenly your brain goes, oh, okay, I need this one.
Ah, so the connection makes it relevant.
That's where the concrete connection to your real life really kicks in.
And that's what makes it stick. Okay, so building on that idea, the next crucial piece is reason number 2. Lack of immediate reuse.
This one's big.
You might grasp a phrasal verb during a lesson. Maybe you even jot down an example or, say it once aloud. But if you don't revisit it or reuse that phrasal verb pretty quickly,
It just fades.
yeah, it fades. Why is that immediate repetition so vital?
Well, think of it this way. Your brain is incredibly efficient, maybe too efficient sometimes.
Yeah.
If it doesn't see that piece of information being used soon after you learn it, especially in a practical way, it just doesn't prioritize it for long-term storage.
So it just gets tidied away.
Kind of. It's not because you're lazy or forgetful. It's just how our memory system is built. We need that early signal, that repetition that says, hey, this is important, save it.
Got it. Okay, and finally, reason number 3, which I think is huge for anyone aiming for actual fluency.
Yes.
Not using them in real conversations. You can recognize a phrasal verb perfectly well when you hear it in a podcast or read it in an article. That's what we call passive knowledge.
Right. Passive understanding.
But it doesn't become part of your speaking vocabulary, the words you actually use, until you use it out loud in real conversations. How do we make that jump?
That is the crucial distinction, isn't it? That verb stays passive. You get it when you encounter it, but it's not part of what you can just pull out and say spontaneously.
Right.
For real fluency, these words, these phrasal verbs, they need to become part of your active vocabulary. That means they're so automatic. You use them naturally without that second guessing, without translating in your head.
Automatic. I like that. So if these challenges sound familiar to you listening,
And they probably do for many.
here's the really good news. You don't need to just memorize more. And you definitely don't need to study harder.
No, please don't.
What you do need is a smarter method, a more personalized approach, something that actually fits into your daily life
Yeah,
and helps these phrasal verbs stick for good.
exactly. And that's what we want to share. A clear, simple, step-by-step process. It teaches you how to pick the right phrasal verbs, the ones for you, how to make them really memorable, and then how to use them daily with confidence.
Okay.
And the best part, this whole routine, it takes maybe 5 minutes a day.
5 minutes. That sounds manageable.
It's designed to complement your life,
Yeah.
not add another huge burden to an already busy schedule.
Love it. Okay, let's dive into step number 1.
All right, step 1, relevance over quantity.
Okay, relevance over quantity. So this means stop trying to memorize those huge lists, right? 20 or 30 verbs at once.
Exactly. Put those lists away. We've seen how that just leads to frustration. Instead, the smart start is to choose just, say, 3 to 5 phrasal verbs.
Only 3 to 5.
It's 3 to 5. But the key is they have to be directly relevant to your life right now, this week.
Okay, so it's super focused.
Super focused. Because your brain learns through relevance, not just sheer quantity or brute force.
Mhm.
When you focus on fewer verbs that genuinely matter to you right now, you create deeper, more meaningful connections. And that's what leads to long-term retention. If you try to learn 20 or 30 new verbs at once, they just compete for your brain's limited attention span.
And you end up remembering none of them.
Pretty much. Or maybe one, randomly. But with just 3 to 5 relevant ones, you can actually start using them, repeating them, anchoring them to real-life situations. And that's how we build that crucial automaticity and fluency we talked about.
You know, I found this so helpful in my own language learning. Thinking about what's actually happening in your life this week.
Right now.
Yeah, maybe you're prepping for a presentation, or you have to give feedback to your team, or maybe you're just planning a dinner, cooking with friends.
Could be anything.
Pick phrasal verbs you would actually use
Yeah.
in those specific situations. And here's the key bit, I think. Create your own examples.
Yes.
Personalize it.
Use the names of real people you know. Talk about real tasks on your to-do list. So, like, if you're learning to follow up, don't just write a generic sentence. Say something like, okay, I need to follow up on the quarterly report with Elena by Friday.
Perfect. It's specific. It's real.
That sentence is tied to a real useful task in your life. And that usefulness, that's what helps your brain go, okay, noted, saving this one.
And that transitions us perfectly into step 2. Pictures and feelings for deep memory.
Pictures and feelings, okay.
Yeah, this is where we move beyond just like logical understanding. We tap into a much deeper level of memory. We know from, well, learning science. Your brain doesn't primarily remember dry definitions. It remembers vivid pictures. And even more powerfully, it remembers feelings, emotions.
That makes sense. It's much more engaging than just a definition. Totally. And it really aligns with what neuroscientist Lisa Genova talks about. She wrote, Remember, The Science of Memory and the Art of Forgetting. Great book.
Well, I've heard of that.
She points out, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, we often forget not because it's efficient for our brains, but because we haven't given our brains the right kind of input needed for memory creation and retrieval.
So we're feeding it the wrong stuff, basically.
Kind of. We're giving it lists when it wants experiences. She goes on to explain that when you imagine an image from memory, your brain is activated as if the image were right there in front of you.
Wow. Yeah.
So for each of those 3 to 5 phrasal verbs you picked, take a moment. Really build a vivid mental picture and connect it to a real emotion.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say one of your phrasal verbs is to wrap up, like to finish something.
Okay.
Don't just think the definition. Picture yourself, maybe, typing the final sentence of your English homework for today. You type that last word, you hit save, you close your laptop.
Yeah, yes.
And you feel that little wave of satisfaction. Done.
Oh, I know that feeling. That's a great example.
Right. So now you've tied wrap up to something visual, closing the laptop, something emotional, that satisfaction, and something real, finishing your task. It's not just a verb on a list anymore. It's an experience your brain can actually hold on to.
That makes so much more sense than just memorizing wrap up can finish. Okay, I get that.
And that leads us nicely into step number 3, activating and anchoring.
Activating and anchoring.
This is where you shift from just learning passively to actively using the phrasal verbs. And this is absolutely crucial for building real confidence.
Right, because just knowing isn't enough.
Exactly. So once you've chosen your 3 to 5, you've made them personal with your own examples, you've made them memorable with pictures and feelings. Now it's time to find natural ways to actually use them during your week.
Okay, so how do we do that without sounding, forced?
Great question. You look for real-life opportunities to say them or write them. The idea isn't to shoehorn them into every single sentence.
Phew.
No. It's about integrating them naturally into your daily routines. Maybe you add one to your meeting notes, or use one when you're writing in your planner for the day, or even just send one in a quick text message to a friend or a coworker.
So small, natural uses.
Exactly. Like say you're preparing for a workshop with a colleague. You might naturally say, hey, let's run through the outline one more time before we present.
Ah, okay. That feels very natural.
Right. That's a real useful moment. You're putting the verb into practice in a meaningful context, and that's what we call anchoring.
Anchoring, connecting the new word to a real-life situation.
Precisely. This is how your brain truly moves that phrasal verb from just passive knowledge into your active, usable vocabulary.
Okay, so any easy tips for making this happen, for finding those opportunities?
Yeah, a couple of simple things. One is write your few phrasal verbs for the week on a sticky note. Or use a notes app on your phone, put it somewhere you'll actually see it often, your desk, your bathroom mirror, wherever.
Visual reminder. Got it.
And also, say them aloud, even if it's just to yourself.
Really?
Yeah. Do it while you're taking a walk or maybe on your commute to work. Just saying them reinforces them. And try mixing it up. Use one in a question today, maybe in an email tomorrow, perhaps in a voice note later.
So vary the context.
Exactly. The more variety and repetition you give a phrasal verb in a reasonably short period, the more natural and automatic it starts to feel.
Okay. Makes sense. Repetition is key.
And this focus on repetition, it's strongly backed by Lisa Genova's work again. She highlights that you can sustain the same information longer in your working memory by repeating it either aloud or in your head.
So basically, if you want these phrasal verbs to stick,
you need to use them. And then use them again, and maybe again.
Got it. Okay, so now we have the 3 core steps.
Yeah.
Relevance, pictures and feelings, and activating and anchoring. How do we put this all together into that 5-minute daily habit you mentioned?
Right, let's bring it all together. We can frame this as a simple 7-day process, something you can just repeat week after week with new verbs.
A weekly cycle, okay.
So day 1 is your prep day. This takes just a few minutes.
Prep day, what do I do?
You choose those 3 to 5 phrasal verbs you want to focus on for this week. Remember, relevant ones.
Right, relevant to my week.
Write them down. Notebooks, scrap of paper, notes app, whatever works. As you write them, actively think, where might I genuinely use these? Who might I say them to?
Okay, visualizing the use.
Exactly. Then place them somewhere visible, sticky note on your monitor, a list in the notebook you use daily, maybe a reminder that pops up on your phone. That's it. Day 1 setup, done.
Simple enough? So what about days 2 through 7?
Okay, days 2 through 7 are your practice days, and this is where the 3 to 5 minutes daily comes in.
3 to 5 minutes.
Oh, it's the morning, maybe while you're making coffee, walking the dog, whatever your routine is. Just say these phrasal verbs aloud.
Just read the list.
Read the list, yes, but also try to make a quick sentence that connects to something in your life that day. Even a simple one, like, okay, today I need to figure out what's for dinner. And as you say it, quickly picture yourself using it in a real conversation later.
Combining the steps, saying it, making it relevant, picturing it.
Exactly. Quick mental rehearsal. Then, as your day goes on, just stay open. Open to natural opportunities to say or write one of those phrasal verbs.
Not forcing it.
No, definitely not forcing it. Just being observant. For instance, maybe you're looking at your schedule, you glance at your sticky note or your app list. Ask yourself quickly, any chances here? You might find yourself sending a quick text saying, hey, let's get together for lunch soon. Or maybe you just think to yourself, right, I really need to follow through on that idea I had yesterday.
So it's about noticing, not manufacturing, opportunities.
Precisely. You're allowing yourself to go with the flow, watch for those moments. That creates natural context anchors and prioritizes real-world use.
Okay. Morning practice, observant during the day. What about the evening?
Good point. In the evening, just take maybe 30 seconds to reflect. Ask yourself, did I use any of these phrasal verbs today? Or did I maybe miss an opportunity? If I did, what could I have said?
Interesting.
And also ask, which ones felt pretty easy to use today? and which ones still feel a bit awkward or difficult.
Why ask that?
This isn't about judging yourself at all. It's simply about building awareness. Awareness of your own learning process. Which ones are clicking? Which ones need a bit more focus?
I see. So it guides the next day's practice a bit.
Exactly. And that's the daily loop. Small, simple routine.
Huh.
Consistent repetition. Building up that confidence. One conversation, one phrasal verb at a time.
That sounds really doable.
And we have a really important pro tip for you here. Something key to making this routine even more effective.
Ooh, okay. A pro tip.
Once you learn, or rather decide to focus on a new phrasal verb for the week, make sure you use it within the first 24 hours.
The first 24 hours. Why so fast?
As quickly as you reasonably can. It could be a quick message to a friend, like we said, a voice note, a casual email to your team, anything. But the faster you activate it after learning,
The stronger the memory trace.
exactly,
Yeah.
the stronger that initial memory connection becomes.
Okay, use it fast. Got it. Any other tips as we go through this weekly process?
Yeah, it can be really helpful to keep track of what's working. Maybe use a simple vocabulary notebook or just a running list somewhere.
A progress tracker?
Kind of. Just put a little check mark next to the phrasal verbs you feel like you're starting to use naturally, and maybe circle or highlight the ones that still feel a bit awkward.
So you know which ones to maybe keep on your list for the next week.
Precisely. You keep working on those tricky ones.
Makes sense.
And perhaps most importantly, as you start to see more of those check marks adding up, remember to genuinely celebrate your wins,
Even the small ones.
especially the small ones. Using a tricky phrasal verb correctly in conversation, that's a win. Noticing an opportunity, even if you didn't take it, that's progress. Recognizing that progress is huge for building up confidence and keeping your motivation high.
That's a great point. Acknowledge the progress. Okay, so what does this all mean for you listening?
Well, if you commit to following this routine, this 5-minute habit, even for just 1 week,
Just 1 week.
even just 1 week, you are going to notice a shift, a real difference. You won't be so stuck second-guessing yourself, doubting yourself every time you want to use a phrasal verb. Instead, you'll naturally begin to remember them more easily, and you'll start using them with genuine confidence in your conversations.
That's the goal, right? Confident use.
That's absolutely the goal.
So, as we wrap up, here's maybe a final thought for you to mull over.
Ooh, okay.
Consider this. If applying this approach, focusing on relevance over quantity, using pictures and feelings, if that can profoundly transform how you learn tricky things like phrasal verbs, how might this same personalized, immersive method transform learning in other challenging areas of your life? What other complex skills or, I don't know, bodies of knowledge could you potentially unlock by approaching them with this kind of focused, relevant, and, yes, emotionally connected learning?
That's a really interesting question to think about beyond just language.